This is Travis Wayne Goodsell, and I'm staying up late to do this one last video because of a project that looks like it's going to take all night long to do, and that gave me the idea for this video, which is ransomware economics. You guys have heard about ransomware. It's usually associated with a type of hacker virus situation where your computer freezes and a message comes on saying that you will have your computer back if you pay a ransom. NCIS, the CBS TV show on Tuesdays at 7, they had an episode once going over this ransomware threat that occurs throughout the world. It's a digital form of what happens and has happened throughout the world's history. Down south of the border in Central and South America, you have I don't know what to really call them, groups, gangs, people in collusion or in conspiracy with against tourists, and it's basically where they kidnap a tourist and hold them for ransom, and people have to pay the ransom, and in some cases the person gets to go free and return to their country and whatever, but many times the person ends up dead, and so paying ransom is a risky business as to whether you're going to get what is threatened. And so yeah, kidnapping is a situation where ransom is involved. I am a victim of a kidnapping ransom. In 1997, my 2.5 children were taken by their mother out of the country to Canada, and she managed to get a divorce in Canada, of which I had to pay the ransom called child support. And people are very divisive about that issue here in Utah. It's a very alt-right conservative mindset here in Utah, and they show no mercy for men as victims of abuse and ransom. And by complaining to the authorities and trying to redress grievances, the state of Utah did not want to hear my case and silenced me by having me arrested as a terrorist threat and considered me mentally ill, and I was removed from society for 6 years of my life without a trial. And I didn't have the money to expunge my record after I got out, because 6 years, I got nothing, and I got nowhere to know about what was going on, and so yeah, they screw you over when you try to report criminal behavior, and that's a ransomware situation. It is a horrible economic system. It involves criminal behavior, and that's the way Russia runs their economic system with outsiders. They will give people loans, as they call it, which is often laundered money through whichever person they're giving the loan to. You're all familiar with Trump's case. Russia has been paying Trump millions of dollars, and he puts it in his LLCs, and it gets laundered so that Russians get away with laundering money. And Trump is able to receive money to pretend to have his fake lifestyle that he portrays that he self-earned. Trump is a fraud. He lives his life on the ransom economic system. And in our society, businesses exploit the citizenry with ransom economics. The situation I'm dealing with has to do with computer technology, where they make a product that is going to fail, and in order to fix the problem, you're required to pay for another product that will fix your problem. And that's a ransomware technique. And that's very common in our society. I'll give you some examples from my family. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. He was a dentist, and so after missions in the Pacific, he was then stationed in Alaska, where he fixed the teeth of veterans who had their mouths shot out or needed dental work during the war. And when he came home from the war, he had post-traumatic stress with adults, and so he decided to go into dentistry for children, so that he can still practice what he knew and loved, but he wouldn't be reminded of the tragedies from war. And he was excellent, having experienced other dentists since him, because as a child growing up, my parents made sure that he became our dentist, and his work still exists today, whereas other people later on in my life whom I've had to go to, their work had failed within a few years. In fact, my grandfather saw the work of another dentist that did a cavity on me, and he was not very happy with the work that they did, and tried to fix it as best he could, but said the cavity is going to fall out, or the filling rather is going to fall out in 5 years. And I'd forgotten about it and went on with my life, and sure enough, 5 years later, I was eating a burrito and the filling popped out. And my grandfather's fillings from childhood are still in my mouth today. So his quality of work is superb, and so I know that the products that businesses make can be better than what they are, and I'll get to that in a minute here. My grandfather was doing child dentistry, and he didn't need to charge a lot of money, being a discounted dentist. He was able to be very popular, and of course he was very good at his job, as I demonstrated. And so he had lots of business, and he even invented a revolving uh, dental chair system so that he can work on 3 patients at one time, or have 3 patients worked on it at the same time. He would have nursing staff if need be, but he could have one person being x-rayed, another person doing other preparatory work, and another person with the actual working that needed to be done. And that was my grandfather's invention, was that revolving chair system, and has the patent with the patent office in the government. He was a very rich man, even though he was charging less money, because he was good. He had lots of business, and so he, had no need for raising his prices and trying to get more money. He still had a mansion in the hills of Ventura. When the fire in Ventura happened last year, I tried doing a Google map search for his home to see if it was affected, and I couldn't find his home anymore. So I'm concerned it must have been torn down for a mountain subdivision to be built over it, which is kind of sad, but it was a very nice home, and I have a lot of memories from my experiences of visiting him on a fairly regular basis for dental work, as well as holidays and other visits that the family would take. But then along came Medicare, the child insurance for poor people, and they threatened my grandfather. They said that if you don't raise your prices, we will not fund the clients who are on Medicare. We will not give you the money for them, so that they'll have to pay extra for the service. And my grandfather was forced to raise his prices so that he could care for the children who were poor and be funded by the Medicare insurance for his service. And that's how I learned about the insurance business. The insurance business came from the East Coast mobs back in the early 1900s, where the mobs did protectionism, and they would go business to business in their territory, similar to gangs. Gangs mark their territory by throwing shoes over telephone wires to mark their turf, and that's how you knew whose territory you were in, or you were in somebody's territory, was by the tennis shoes that were looped around the telephone wires up above, or the electrical wires. And the mafia send out people store to store and collect the monthly protectionism insurance. And businesses were forced to give cash off the books because the mob didn't pay taxes. And that's how they got Al Capone, is for tax evasion. And that's how they ran things. And when the government was cracking down, you have the mob needing to get money in a different way. And thus came insurance. And also unions. Unions do the same type of thing. You work for a business, and the union, and oftentimes the business forces you to get involved in the union because the business refuses to pay you what is necessary for you to live a normal life, paying you less than a living wage. And so you're forced to work or get signed up with the union for that company. And the union then makes sure that you get paid more, but the only problem is that you have to pay monthly dues to the union. And it's a big con job. You know, if the businesses would just pay the right amount of money in the first place to their employees, there would be no need for unions. There would be no need for that extortion and protectionism scam. And businesses in the mob who didn't pay the mob, they would have mysterious fires or vandalism that would occur in their business. And so people were threatened to pay the mob month after month, and if they couldn't pay, they got punished. And then they had to pay for the damages to their business, and they get in worse trouble because they have two people to pay now, the mob and the contractors to do the repairs on the business. And this is a long-standing economic system that has been an underground economic system in our nation. And so insurance companies are part of that scam economics, underground economics, and now they're required in many cases. If you get your driver's license and you get a car, you're forced to have auto insurance. If you get a home, you're forced to have home insurance. They keep pushing you for life insurance, but Medicare, you know, Obama forced everybody to have health insurance. You know, if people take care of themselves, they don't need to go to the doctor. I rarely go to the doctor. I'm exceedingly healthy. It's only when I get attacked by our government or by the system that I have health problems. For example, during the 6 years that I was locked up, I was wrongly forced on psychotropic drugs, and that I was told, or one of the symptoms from the drugs is kidney failure. And sure enough, in 2015, I had a kidney infection and was rushed to the emergency room, and the doctor didn't realize that I was on a psychotropic med, and he figured it was just a regular infection that most people have, and treated it with antibodies that are typical for the average kidney infection. And I got a call a few days later by a nurse panicking, saying that the doctor made the wrong prescription because the results came back from the lab indicating that it was a different strain of infection, and that I needed to have the different antibodies, but my body recovered easily from that. Also in that case, the doctor wanted to prescribe me some hardcore pain medicine. Utah is a big hotspot for opioid abuse, and I knew that I didn't want to get involved in the hardcore pain treatment, so I told the doctor I don't want to have the hardcore stuff, and the doctor had to relent and give me some less painful stuff, even though he threatened me, saying, "Well, you're probably going to go through a lot of pain and uh, and whatever, but if that's what you want," he had to comply. And sure enough, he gave me the lighter stuff, and pain went away instantly. And then I had to go through the burning fever for uh, 2 or 3 days as I healed, and but then I was all better and never had the problems thereafter. And I've since said see ya to my psychotropic meds. When I saw the opening, I took it. So I'm free from them for the moment. They're currently working to force me back on it, and there's some problems with that, but yeah, that's what they do. Ransom economics is people in power or in businesses need customers. They need money, and will cause a ransom economic system to force people to give them money. And insurance is one of those ways. To also illustrate how insurance causes all businesses that have insurance that you show and get a discount on your bill, even though it's not really a discount, because if you're paying monthly for your insurance and you rarely need to use your insurance when something happens, you're actually paying more in the long run for your needs when you need insurance. So that's kind of a scam there. But I woke up one morning, went outside to go to work, found that my vehicle had a busted window. Somebody had vandalized it. I called my auto insurance agent, and she indicated that my rates would most likely go up, and I called around, and people that were advertising that they accepted insurance companies' policies or cards or whatever, their prices, if I didn't have insurance, was $200 to fix the one window in my car. And that was consistent time after time as I called different companies that were approved by insurance companies, that they accepted insurance. I then found one guy who did not list that he accepted insurance. He seemed to be in defiance of insurance companies, or insurance companies didn't trust him with their business. And I called him and told him of my need for a window replacement and asked him for an estimate, and he said, "Oh yeah, that'll be $50 for the window and the labor." So $50 is what no insurance would cost me, versus $200 if I didn't have insurance at a place that insurance is accepted. So as you can see, that's what happened to my grandfather. Insurance companies came in and said, we will pay you for customers who have our insurance as long as you raise your prices for people who don't have our insurance, or don't have insurance at all. And that's how insurance works. They ransom businesses to raise prices so that people are forced to get insurance to pay a lower price on things that need fixing. So that's how insurance companies work. So that shows you insurance is a fraud business, and it should be illegal. But our government now protects insurance companies. After 9/11, the insurance companies cried, saying, "Oh, we're going to go out of business. We can't pay for all these people." You know, again, why do we pay money to an insurance to protect us if they're going to complain about not protecting us after a tragedy? You know, hurricane victims. You hear the stories of insurance companies arguing, well, you're not really covered for hurricanes, or they'll change what it was. It wasn't really a hurricane, it was a flood. And you're not covered for flood, but you're covered for hurricanes. And they come up with all sorts of excuses not to pay you. That's a gambling operation, not just ransom operation. And gambling is defined as where you invest money with no guarantee of a return on your investment. And that's what insurance companies are. They're gambling operations. And Utah has a law against gambling. You're not allowed to gamble in Utah. And yet Utah promotes and enforces having insurance for certain things. Medical insurance, auto insurance, home insurance. And so Utah is big on insurance, but they deny gambling. And that's hypocrisy, basically. But that's Utah government ransoming their own citizenry, supporting insurance companies. And there's another story of how this type of economic system functions. My dad went to Berkeley, and that's where I was born, while he was going to school there. And he graduated from Berkeley, and it just coincided with the timing of when the Ford Motor Company in Michigan had a lot of job openings. And my dad was educated in financial accounting, and Ford Motor Company had that job available. And so he went and got the job at Ford Motor Company. Now the reason why is because in 1970, those of you who are old enough to remember, they came out with the Ford Pinto. Back in my day, people were picking on Kmart for selling cheap quality products, and with Kmart advertising a blue light special, that became a running joke in my grade school and into the upper grades, that you know, if you were being picked on by somebody for being poor, they would use blue light special as an insult to make fun of you with. And the reason why with Ford is because the Pinto was a junk car. And Ford in 1970 thought, you know, we have high quality vehicles that last for decades. And as a result of the high quality cars, people are not being return customers. They're not buying new cars every year when we roll out the new models for the next year. How do we get people to keep coming back to buy new cars? Well, they came up with the Pinto. And the Pinto was a piece of junk, requiring people to come back year after year to get a new car because it kept breaking down. And that upset a lot of people, and it went to court, and people lost their jobs, and Ford got busted over that scandal. And uh, my dad was then able to walk on into a job there with Ford when uh, they cleaned house, and my dad was able to tell me, yeah, that's how they operate. They specifically built cars to fail, requiring consumers to either buy a whole new car or uh, buy the parts for the car that are needed and fix it themselves, which requires them to have automotive training, or they have to go to a mechanic who would then buy the parts from the company and fix it for us. And now you see, when you buy something, people offer warranties, which are like insurance. And you see the scam that's being perpetrated on the American people. It's a ransomware. They build a faulty product and then require us to pay if we want the product fixed. That's ransom economics. And it's a crime, but the government doesn't prosecute it. They protect it and allow it, and protect it with the law. And that's what happens in all businesses. They've all figured it out. Even Maytag washers. Back in the day, there was the celebrity advertiser for Maytag on the TV commercials, and Gordon Jump. He's a Mormon boy, and so Utahns knew him, and most of his commercials were here in Utah anyway, I guess, because Mormons are the target audience for Maytag. And Maytag used to sell quality washers that lasted a lifetime, and it's because of Gordon Jump. Gordon Jump put it into his contract, I will advertise for you on the condition that you guarantee your product for life. And so Maytag was sort of forced by Gordon Jump to produce a good quality Maytag washer. Then, of course, Gordon Jump died, and guess what happened after he died? Maytag came out with new models, and they weren't as good. They broke down. But, Maytag still offered a 5-year warranty for their washing machines. And that's how I found out about it, because I had enough money to buy my own washer and dryer, and knowing the history of Maytag, I thought, oh yeah, I'll just go get a Maytag and I'll be set for life with a washer and dryer. And I get into the store, I'm saying, yeah, Maytags, they're great for life, and the guy confided in me and told me that, well, no, the new models don't really last long, and they'll probably die in 5 years. And so I was forced to get the warranty insurance, and unfortunately, the week or two after the warranty expired, guess what happened to my washer? It started clicking and then wouldn't work. The belt collapsed underneath, and I wasn't educated on the construction of a washing machine, and didn't know where to go to get the parts, and so I lost my washing machine after the 5 years. But that's the way things are, and it's so common in our society. Business after business after business produces poor quality products that last a limited lifetime. Even laptops, computers, phones, they all don't last, or with the digital technologies, they have programs to run on your phones, tablets, laptops, computers that turn your digital equipment obsolete, so that you're forced to get the upgraded products. So like my XP computer, it's now obsolete. I can't upgrade to Windows 10 on it. Excuse me. And I was fine and happy with the XP, but I can't do the Windows 10 functions on that computer. And so I was forced to upgrade and buy a new computer. And so the digital technologies are also doing this ransom economics system on us. Because isn't it coincidental that each year they come out with a brand new model that's new and improved? And I saw that with the commercials back in the 80s. A commercial would come up and say that they're new and improved. Well, wait a minute. The older product said it was great and perfect, better than these other products, and now you're saying that you came up with something new and improved when the previous product was supposed to do the job? How did that work? You're now confessing that the previous product you lied to us about? And the companies just play us for chumps. They play us for fools. And it's all about getting money. And we have no choice but to comply, because the government has made it tough to redress grievances. With car accidents, it's dealt with through the insurance companies, unless the insurance companies refuse to pay, and then you are required to get these lawyers who, they're magically in place, ready to go to take your case and get you the money you deserve. The only problem is that you have to pay them too. So you pay for the lawyers, and then the lawyers get you the full amount for your vehicle, but you're still at a loss because you had to pay the lawyers. The whole system is rigged against us, and it's all messed up, and we're being played as chumps. We're being extorted, we're being held for ransom, or our property is being held for ransom if we don't pay to upgrade, to repair, or to replace. Because with mechanics, with your vehicles, you have some parts that break down that require so much money that it's almost more economically feasible to just buy a brand new car. And there are lots of situations like that. A toaster, for example, if it breaks down, you just buy a new toaster, because the parts and the labor that are required to fix it is more than an actual toaster. And there's no reason for that. We have the technology to make long-lasting and durable products. The problem is that it's not economically profitable. And so businesses can come up with a great invention, but if they don't sabotage the invention to require people to come back and buy new products or upgraded products or parts for the products, then the company loses money and they go out of business. And so the businesses have complained to the government, no, you gotta allow us to make inferior products so that we can make money. And we, the customers, suffer. And it would be really nice if there was a lawyer out there who would take the case on and challenge businesses who make these faulty products and force a change in our economy. But they don't do that. And now what we're witnessing under Trump is Trump will help big businesses as long as they funnel money through his LLCs, and then he gives them a tax break, and then the businesses take that tax break, reinvest it in the stock market in their company, rather than trickling it down to their employees. Amazon, for example, finally are paying their employees $15 an hour, whereas before news reports were coming out that Amazon employees were forced to get SNAP benefits to try to survive, because they were being treated very poorly. I do my shopping through Amazon because it's nice to have Amazon deliver straight to my home, and so I don't need to go out to the stores and buy the products and bring them home. It's just convenient to, you know, when the mail comes or the Amazon driver comes, I get it right then. And I bought a product once, and the computer said it was scheduled to come on a holiday, and I thought, well, it would most likely come on the next day, but nope. Checking the shipping status, it was out for delivery on the holiday, and I talked with the driver and mentioned that I hoped he was getting time and a half for working on a holiday, and he kind of embarrassedly said, "No, I'm not." And interesting thing about Amazon deliveries is that each and every delivery from Amazon has been by a different person each and every single time, and that means they're having a high turnover on drivers, because I don't think they hire a whole bunch of drivers and then have them work a different shift each day, and so I know there's something going wrong with Amazon's system. And Amazon is a multi-billion-dollar business, and yet they've got so many things that could improve their system that they could easily be a trillion-dollar business if they just had somebody smart enough to set up the operation better. And they can still pay their employees a good salary at the same time. So I don't understand why they're settling for billions when they could easily be making trillions. It's an easy operation, and I have experience with this. I worked for a clothing warehouse operation, and when I first got there, my job took me all day, and I still had left over at the end of the day that it got carried over to the next day, and so on and so on, such that the workers, 7 of us, ended up having to work overtime on Saturday to get caught up for the week, so that starting Monday we would then start getting behind immediately on that first day because of the way they set up their system. And I was able to understand the system that they were using, and was able to theorize a system that was more efficient and productive. But it required the transferring of the supervisor and the transferring of the manager in order for the new manager to say, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. And I implemented it, and they realized, oh, okay, you're wanting to condense the racks, the storage racks, and lessen the pallet size of the boxes. And that works great because we were having complaints about the high stacking of our boxes that were falling over, and that will solve that problem. And so I was able to get assistance because at first they said, yeah, you got to do it yourself. We're not going to help you. Sort of like the Chicken Little story, where the mother hen, or the mother hen story. The mother hen has a farm and she wants to plant wheat, and she asked for help if anybody wants to help plant, and they said, oh no, I'm too busy, I got other things to do. And then, you know, she had to harvest the wheat, and nobody wanted to help her either. And then she is making bread, and nobody wanted to help make the bread. And then the bread was made, and it was smelling great, and everybody came over. Oh, you got bread, I see. Oh, that smells great. Can I have some? And, you know, then the moral of the story comes in, and you guys weren't helping me in making this. And now you want a free ride to eat the bread that I worked and sweated for. And, yeah, that's the way people are in our society. They get a business, they make an inferior product, and they expect everybody to pay on a regular basis for their product. And we see that with the coal industry. The coal industry it pollutes our environment. It pollutes the air, it pollutes the land, it kills off the workers in the mines. That's why they have a canary in the mine, so that when the canary is dead, no longer singing, they need to get out of that mine as quick as possible, because they're next. And so coal mining is very dangerous and very dirty, and it's very pollutant, very hazardous. And yet here we have Trump saying, oh, we clean coal. You know, we need people to get back to work. They need jobs. And here in Utah, we had the mine explosion, the coal mine explosion, killing people. And the guy fled Utah, and they tried to get him arrested and charge him for the crimes of unsafe mining practices. And you know, the coal miners were saying, oh, we're out of work now. What do we do? How do I take care of my family? And that shouldn't be a problem. All they have to do is get another job. But in a coal mining town, that is the only job, other than the bar. But you can't have everybody working in the bar. That's unproductive. And you know, the bar would lose money, and the people wouldn't make enough money to live and support their families, because bars pay far less than working in a coal mine. And so, yeah, there's an economic disaster because we don't have a system set up for people to improve their job quality. And so coal miners should have just been able to transfer to a different job. I saw that with architecture. I used to be a drawer, and people saw my work and said, hey, you should go into architectural design. And so when I went to college, there was an architectural design class. I took it, but that's when computer technology was starting to take off. And I foresaw that if there's going to be a computer program for architectural design, then I'm in big trouble, because I took a computer class as required in high school alongside of driver's ed, and I bombed on MS-DOS, or the DOS program, whatever it was back then, DOS RAM, ROM, or whatever. I couldn't figure out the language at all. It made no sense to me, and I was saying, well, why can't it just be like this? A system where if I want to do something, all I have to do is click, and there it is, or type in something, and there it is. Instead, uh, DOS required this language code that you had to type in a whole set of text for in their language and their coding, and it made no sense to me. I couldn't figure it out, no matter how I tried. And my dad, he knew it all, and he tried to teach me, and he failed to teach me on that. And so I knew I was computer illiterate, and with computer technology on the rise, I knew that I couldn't get involved in architectural design, because it would go to computers and no longer requiring an actual drawing to be made. And so I knew that I was going to be in trouble on that. I now have an architectural program, and it's easy to use. So if I had known that the newer computer technologies would be simpler to utilize, even though I have no idea how to program, and apps, little kids are making apps. I have no idea how to make an app, but I have lots of ideas that could be done on an app, but I don't know how to do it. And I try to Google and search for stuff on YouTube on how to do it, and I haven't found anything that I understand, if I found anything. But that's the problem with the digital technologies, is they're making them so that we can't repair them by ourselves. When VCRs came out, I was taught by my peer in grade school that, oh yeah, you just go inside your VCR and get a clean piece of paper and hold it over the spinners and clean off the spinners, so that there won't be the fuzzy lines on the VCR program that you're watching. And sure enough, our family VCR got fuzzy one day, and everybody was talking about how we needed to go buy a new VCR so that we could watch movies. And there I am, going to the VCR, taking off the cover, getting a piece of paper, and magically worked. Family was all impressed, and oh, you saved us all this money. We can't do that with today's digital technology. It's all on these little bit things, and yeah, you can't fix technology by yourself these days. You'd have to get a whole new circuit breaker or whatever they call them, and replace it. My XP computer is now running hot, and I need a new fan, or I need a new motor. I'm not sure which, and I have no idea how to fix it. But I've upgraded because I needed the newer technology, and so yeah, that's our economic system, is they force us to continually pay, and that's how they say, oh, we have a great economy, and all it is everybody is extorting from their customers. They're forcing us into ransom economics, and that's why our economy is booming. And the companies just invest their profits back into the company in the stock market, rather than raising the employees' wages and lowering the cost of their products. And so, yeah, it's a big mess, and I hope you now realize the con game that we are all victimized to, the ransom that we're all forced to pay. and our government is helping to perpetuate that ransom on us. And so we need drastic economic change in our nation, as well as a governmental change on this problem. And that's not going to happen easily. And you see it in politics when people run for office. You know, right now the Democrats are holding us for ransom, as well as the Republicans are holding us for ransom, just in a different way. The Republicans are saying you can't let Democrats in, otherwise all the work we've been doing will be destroyed. And Democrats are saying Republicans are destroying our nation, you need to put us into power, and we promise we'll change it and restore everything back to normal. And then, you know, people do it. They put in the other party's president, and they don't fix it, but everybody thinks they're being pacified having the security blanket of their party's president in office. And yeah, it goes back and forth, and it's a mess. We need to pull out of that. We need to think outside the box, get somebody other than a party person. The Constitution says no parties. It says individual representation. And they're supposed to work on behalf of the people, not on behalf of businesses who work against the people. All businesses need to be sued. They're committing crimes against us by raising prices, providing poor quality products that we are forced to pay the ransom of an upgraded new product altogether, or parts for our product. And if we don't know how to fix it ourselves with the new parts, we then have to pay a mechanic to do the work for us and repair it. And that's the economic system we live in. And it's worse when you find out that we don't live in a gold standard anymore. Constitution said there's supposed to be a gold standard, and we don't utilize gold anymore. It's all digital. Banks, you know, they print whatever they want, and they digitally transfer by just typing in whatever they want. And the banks get the money from the Federal Reserve, and the banks then loan it on credit to businesses and to individuals as a loan, but it's not real. It's all digital. And so when Bitcoin came out, Bitcoin is this same digital process, and it's run more like the stock market, where as long as people put in more Bitcoin into the system, it raises the value of things. But the people who control Bitcoin and the other digital currencies, when it gets to a certain height, they purposely collapse the currency so that they make more money and screw everybody else. And then everybody is forced to then build it back up again by paying into it, and they're being conned. It's like a pyramid scheme. A pyramid scheme is when a person gets other people to pay him as they get other people to pay them. And it works like a pyramid from the top down. And so eventually a pyramid scheme will stall out, because once you've utilized 7 billion people in the world, there's nobody left to put in money into the system. And so the person at the top is making all the money, and the people at the bottom have nobody left to get. And so they lose out. And that's why pyramid schemes are illegal, And yet in Utah, we came across a business that tried to sneak a pyramid scheme with actual selling of products. The people in the pyramid scheme, they would go to people and visit them and say, hey, there's this company we're working for, and all you have to do is get other people into the company, and you can get paid by them coming in. Well, that's a pyramid scheme. Oh, no, 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 we sell products. And they have a catalog of the products that they sell, and the prices for these products are way high, so nobody in their right mind would actually pay for the products. And so you then realize, oh, but I can get rich quick by getting other people to join? Wow, that's cool. And that's the pyramid scheme. And so I reported it on the Better Business Bureau, and there ended up being a back and forth debate with the owner of the company, who tried to save face and keep his company by saying, oh no, we sell products, we're not a pyramid scheme. And I laid out exactly their system of how they do it, and it's a half and half. You know, they have the products that they sell, but the prices are so high that the only way that people are enticed to make money through their company is by getting other people into the company to pay them, and then they pay the people above them who got them into it. And that's the pyramid scheme. And it's amazing how people think that they're cheating the system or getting away with things in order to make a living. And the government doesn't do anything to stop it unless it affects the government's profits. And so, wow, that took an hour. Cool. So there's the ransom economics. Happy, happy, joy, joy that we're in the society we're in.